Happy New Year. Thank you for joining me and John on our first match preview of 2023. The Cherries prepare for their first game of this year on the road up north against Manchester United. And the trend of no game is easy in this league continues. John, Happy New Year. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. Happy New Year to you too, and to everyone watching. Yeah, I'm doing okay, thank you. I've not been at home for a little while, as you can probably tell my not normal background. But yeah, I'll be able to go to this game, thankfully. So I'm hoping that it'll be a little bit different to the last few results.
Please do hit the like button on this video. We like to try and get 50 likes, so let's put a minimum of that on this video. Also subscribe if you're new to the channel. We've had something like 10 new subscribers in the last week, so thank you very much, and thank you to our current subscribers. And of course, at the end of this video, we want to get your thoughts in the comments ahead of this game. We go back to the last game though, and we'll focus on Bournemouth initially. It was our last fixture of 2022. What a year 2022 was, but we didn't finish it on a high. It was a 2-0 loss against Crystal Palace. It was a tough watch for me in the North Stand. The lineup was okay, John. I was pretty happy with that, to see a back four. The image you'll see in a minute in the graphics from Sky Sports will show a back five, but it was a back four. Unfortunately, some players struggled. The centre-backs, I thought, particularly struggled. One's out of form, looking for form, maybe not fit. The other one was playing on a different side to he has been doing previously. And then Jaden Anthony was on the right, and that confused Jordan Zamora, and we didn't get the best out of them too. So a frustrating day. Crystal Palace found their winning ways again after not winning in two, and it was not what we really needed at this stage of the season.
Yeah, I was unable to watch much of this game. I caught the first 20 minutes, and it certainly didn't start brilliantly. I did see the first goal, which was some diabolical marking, and then looking at the reaction online, I haven't even really convinced myself to even watch the highlights at this point. To be honest, it doesn't feel like it's going to be worthwhile. I did see AFCB Rob, who's a great account to follow on Twitter, saying that basically it didn't look like either team was really going to score outside those two corners. I've seen other comments just about just the general inability of the manager and the players. It's always going to be a combination of things. It's very easy to completely lay the blame at one particular set of people, one particular group, but there's clearly a few things that just aren't working at the moment. And I don't know, Kirk, you'll be able to, having been there, you'll be able to give a better summary of a few of the things that you think were particularly bad about that performance.
Yeah, I mean, I was always worried, John, and I know that we speak behind the scenes a lot, and I was always worried that if we didn't get anything at Chelsea, which was a tough ask, but not even a performance in that first half, we were out the game was over in the first 30 minutes. I always worried about this fixture. I think it was going to amplify the expectation for Gary O'Neill to be more on the front foot, especially at home. But not getting anything on the board meant if we didn't get anything against Crystal Palace, he's then got to go to this next fixture against Man United, and just not finding that first point as confirmed head coach was going to be a bit of a problem. As I said, I think he reverted to a back four, which I think was right. I think Lloyd Kelly's clearly not in form. I think Senesi struggled for pace on the turn, playing to the right. I felt like Jordan Zamora was confused. Billing playing off the left. Billings, I don't see Billing as a versatile player. I think he's very limited. I've said this before. I think that he has that one real good performance in him in a free role, playing behind the strikers in front of Lewis Cook and Lerma. But Jaden Anthony on the right, weird. So there's these type of things that are happening, John, that are not helping Gary O'Neill to get the fans back on side. And that's now 6 losses in 7 Premier League form. It's 3 games without scoring in all competitions and 2 consecutive losses in the Premier League. And this is going to be another tough game for him. So the concerning thing for me, John, is that we're at the game again very early on. The 2 goals we conceded were so poor. A free header inside the 6-yard box, a free shot from just inside the 18-yard box, both from corners. I mean, we're not great attacking from set pieces, are we really? And now we're not great defending set pieces. So we've got a real problem. And I said that in my match reaction. We have a real problem across the board now. And the board made the decision to put Gary O'Neill in this position. I worried he would struggle. I think he is struggling. But I only hope that he proves us right somehow. It's going to be a tough ask, though.
Yeah, I agree. I obviously put out that video where I looked at the merits of Bielsa and O'Neill, and I think I sort of settled for O'Neill. And one of the reasons for that was because of the players, because the players clearly enjoy playing for him, clearly like playing for him. But over these last couple of weeks, where it's after a period where he's had a lot of time to train with them and sort of decide on what he wants, more specifically, as opposed to just reacting to every other team, it's not worked out so far. I think when you look at that game, I would say that the double centre-back pairing, I'm surprised you haven't mentioned already, was two left-footed centre-backs. But the ironic thing about that one was the problem, I believe, was not Senesi, who was playing on his weaker side. I believe the problem was more with Kelly, who continues to be incredibly slow on the ball and look to not play it forward as much as he really should and is capable of doing. Certainly that was my impression of the first 20 minutes. I'd imagine when we were 2-0 down, things changed a little bit and he got it forward much quicker. But it's not good enough to beat Tottenham and decide you can only start playing when you're 2-0 down, because we don't have the players to come back in every single match from that. The other thing is definitely the lack of a few players because of illness is not helping. Marcus Tavernier has turned out to be a fantastic player, but unfortunately it seems as though it's basically the entire linchpin of Gary O'Neill's desire of how he wants to play counter-attacking style requires Tavernier. And if you don't have him, then he can't produce anything, which is not a very good sign. And the other thing is something that we brought up before, you specifically more so brought up before, Kirk, is Kiefer Moore, who I think should always and was always looked at by the fans as a fantastic plan B against certain teams, particularly if you think in the games against Chelsea and the games against Spurs, against United, against the very big sides that we're expected to struggle against. He would be a great option as someone to help in clearing the ball up, win the first header, and you provide support to him. But I don't know what it was like against Palace, but certainly in the game before against Chelsea, I felt as though O'Neill's plan was very confused, because you had Moore staying very high up. You had Solanke relatively high up. He was dropping a bit as well. But the issue you would have is the wide players stay wide and the two central midfielders stay quite deep to start a low passing build-up. At which point, after 8 passes, you lump the ball up to Kiefer Moore and there is no one to get the second ball. You cannot play Kiefer Moore and then not have anyone around him. You can't win the first, second, and third ball. It's just not possible, particularly when you're around strong defenders in the Premier League. So O'Neill either has to return to more of the 4-3-3, even if Christie hasn't been great, get Christie on the right, get Anthony on the left, actually play a more passing game, which we should be doing against teams like Crystal Palace that are in poor form. Or you play more to Kiefer Moore. You put Kiefer Moore up, you put Billing up, you put players, you chunk the middle with Kiefer Moore, and then you play long ball constantly. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different style of play. But you need to pick one or the other. And he hasn't picked on one or the other yet. And that is a big issue at the moment. And I think that one of the things that he needs is an experienced coach. And he doesn't have one. He's got a young analyst that's been brought in, a younger, he's still older than me, but he's still young for the game. And he's got 2 very inexperienced coaches in Elphick and Cooper, two people that we love, but just they haven't done anything in the game yet. He needs someone to maybe give him a bit of a kick at the backside to say, pick something and let's work on it, because it's just not coming together at the moment.
Yeah, good point to be made as well, like you did, that Chris Mepham missing again is clearly hurting us, and no, Tavernier was always going to hurt us. We'll come back to the Kiefer Moore and Dom Solanke and Billing potentially in the predicted lineups in a little bit, because you've made a good point there. But let's move on to Manchester United. Let's just touch on their last game in the Premier League, which was a 1-0 win against the hard-fought Wolves under new leadership themselves. And Erik ten Hag now, John, is seemingly finding a way to get results. I think that's 3 wins in a row in the Premier League, now minus Cristiano Ronaldo, so maybe the atmosphere is better on a day-to-day basis going into their fixtures. And Marcus Rashford is a player that's refinding his form that he had when he burst on the scenes.
Yeah. When we've had two teams that really was kind of a good time to play, we've now come against one that is a terrible time to play them. You've got Rashford in form. You've got Martial not maybe being amazing, but he's still really is helping much more than Cristiano Ronaldo did. You've got Anthony, who's a bit, well, he's okay on the right side, but he's still getting the odd goal. The defence looks pretty solid, even with Luke Shaw in centre back. He's actually looked pretty darn good at centre back, to be fair, against some average opposition. And then you've got that midfield. You've got Casemiro, Eriksen, and Bruno Fernandes, which is, I mean, God, behind City, that's probably the best central midfield in the Prem. I mean, Spurs is pretty good. Chelsea isn't bad, but I'd still say they're all on form as well, which makes it even more terrifying. This is going to be an incredibly difficult game. We haven't got. Have we got a point away at Man United in our history? Possibly. Have we got a 1-1 draw there before? I think that's it. In terms of points. Yeah, I think that's the only point we've ever got against Man United away from home. I'm not. I am going, but I'm not looking forward to it. I have to say, I'm hoping that he's able to pull something special out of the bag. And to be fair, we've seen it so far. Just in the last few match weeks, you see Leeds were able to hold Newcastle as we did at St James's Park. You see Everton, thanks to a wonder goal, but they managed to hold Man City at the Etihad. It's going to have to be one hell of a solid defensive performance to get anything from this game.
And Gary O'Neill, we know, likes to look at the opposition, and he'll be doing that short turnaround between the games. But Manchester United have broken into that current top four at the moment, points 32, 4 wins in 5, 10 wins overall, only 1 loss at home at the opening day of the season against Brighton. Christian Eriksen, what a free transfer he was for them. He's a little bit versatile, but more effective higher up the pitch. And as I said, Marcus Rashford scored again against Wolves, and he's got 6 games unbeaten at Old Trafford. Yeah, this is a big ask, John, because Manchester United are a team that have got some youth coming through. I think they've got similar sort of things going on like we previously had with potentially new takeovers. They've got infrastructure. Although it's a great stadium, it needs some attention. The training ground needs some attention. And as a fan base for Man United, they're as frustrated that they're being left behind against teams versus Man City, Liverpool, maybe your Arsenals and your Chelseas. And the only way Erik ten Hag can turn those frustrations around is to get performances on the pitch for them and results, because they are one of the biggest clubs in the world. They need to be in the top 4, and minus Cristiano Ronaldo, I think they're going to be a better outfit, more structured outfit, and they're not going to have those frustrations of strops on the sidelines, walking down the tunnel. Yeah, this is a team now that I think are going to be hard to beat in 2023, and we've only got a draw against them once in the 4 or 5 times we've been to Old Trafford, and it's been the losses the other end. So we've never beaten them, and we'll take a draw. I'll take a tough draw, a not horrible draw, John. We're going to need to get something.
Yes, as you said, away from home, only got 1 point in 5 visits in our time in the Prem. We have beaten them obviously twice at home, but that was under very different circumstances both times. And we will definitely have a better chance when they come to Bournemouth as opposed to going to Old Trafford, and the atmosphere, the familiarity that they obviously have with that stadium. But yeah, it's Ronaldo thankfully will be a topic that will fade into the background with regards to Man United over the next couple of weeks, because he sealed his move to Al Nassr, much I'm sure to the joy of many Man United fans to see him out the door, because he was a distraction, and he also wasn't helping the team. I'm sure there were many an argument about, are United better with or without Ronaldo, and there's no doubt that he provides something, but unfortunately the modern game just doesn't cater really quite so much to the needs of one person. You need to have to be incredibly good to be the one player that carries your team. And we're looking at Ronaldo 5 years ago. We're looking at not now. We're looking at Messi now still. Mbappe's getting there as per the World Cup final. But it's now that they're a more cohesive team. Now you've got the likes of Martial, as long as he stays fit, combining better with the other players. and you've got the supreme talent of the likes of Casemiro, of Fernandes, who is definitely better when Ronaldo is not on the pitch. You've got Rashford coming into great form. Yeah, it's difficult. It's going to be difficult to stop United at all this season. It really is. It's going to be up to some of the big teams to really try and hammer them in, because there will be some weaknesses, but they're difficult to find, particularly when Casemiro is so good at covering the ground and just finding just cancelling out attacks before they get started all over the pitch. So we've got to try and find a way to get around that, which is going to be very difficult. And as I mentioned before, O'Neill needs to pick a strategy. And obviously it will be incredibly defensive. We are going to sit back. I think, or at least I hope, to see at least Mepham come back into the team, because he has just been immense for us this season. And I think Senesi has been fantastic. And I think Lloyd Kelly, I'm not sure this is a game, given his rustiness. He may be our captain, but I do have concerns about him when he's this rusty and when he's being this slow. And I think this is a game I wouldn't want to have to carry a centre-back. And I would prefer to see a back four going up against an attacking three in the way that United set up. It's far too easy to just put as many defenders as possible on the pitch and just try and block them out. And it just doesn't work like that. We tried that against City, didn't work. Tried that against... well, actually, no, we were playing 4-4-2 against Liverpool, but that was a disaster. But that was mostly due to Parker's insistence on playing kamikaze football. But O'Neill is going to have to come up with a good strategy for this one, which is going to be tough in the space of 2 days, get it into the team. But I mean, God, 20% possession I could see us having is just not going to be great. It's going to have to be backs to the wall, play it long, get it to Moore, and try and get the support to him, because we haven't done that well enough the last few games.
And also, I think I'll note in there that as much as we're struggling to find a goal, I don't think Manchester United have conceded a goal at home since middle of October. So the task is not getting any easier. Right, let's revert back to Bournemouth before we look at those predicted lineups. 17 games. We've only dropped one position, even though we're not picking up any results. 16 points on the board. Players that are top players are not available to us in regards to Marcus Tavernier. Billings now potentially not available for this game because he came off injured. Right, John, we have to talk about it, because it seems like, I think Gary O'Neill just about had the fan base when he was confirmed as head coach. I think he's very much losing the fan base very quickly. I think some people are talking about comments he made after the game. I think maybe it's being exaggerated slightly. Maybe he doesn't mean it like Scott Parker, but he's talking about, some sarcasm in the stands at the end of that game against Crystal Palace, where we had a shot on target and we're almost taking the piss out of ourselves. That's not good. But this, I think we've got to appreciate that it's going to be highly unlikely we get anything from this game. It's going to have to be a fluke, and it's going to have to be a freak result. We've only ever got a point from there before. But I think it's more performance. I don't want to be out the game in 30 minutes. I think that's got to be his first task. He's under real pressure, and these games are going to lead towards Brentford and Forest. And I did call it sort of off air that I worried that he could be out of a job come February, and we're back to square one. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a miracle now for him to turn this around, do you think?
I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't necessarily say it would be a miracle, particularly, this game, there's no expectations on it. It's another free hit. It's the thing is, we keep talking about free hits in terms of games against the top six. It's like, you tend not to stay up. If you don't get any points against the top six, then I think only one team has ever done that, stayed up and got 0 points against the top six. It's very rare, certainly in recent history. You've got to pick up something from somewhere in a game that you're not expected to. But this will be very difficult. And of course, after a poor performance against Chelsea, particularly poor first half against Chelsea, with a slightly better second half, but circumstances mean that Chelsea weren't exactly out of second gear. There were people on Twitter already calling for him to be sacked, which is frankly ridiculous. But is understandable if you didn't want him in the first place. And there are a lot of fans that won't have wanted O'Neill because they saw, and I think in the way that pundits just don't get it, fans could see that it was what, 1 win in 5. It was four losses on the bounce, and then we beat Everton twice, which were 2 good performances. But when you consider what could have been before that, it was incredibly disheartening, despite the fact that we were 2 goals up against Spurs and Leeds. And those are the kinds of things that you sort of say, well, there's a little bit of sliding doors here, and things could have been incredibly different because we were showing some good signs in those games. I mentioned before, I think he needs someone, a coach with experience. He needs someone on his side. He needs an assistant. He needs to get an assistant manager in, because I don't think either of the 2 coaches, Elphick or Cooper, are technically assistant managers. He needs someone on his right-hand side that can just actually sort of like maybe pick out things that he isn't noticing, or maybe say, look, in this game, you're 2 goals up. Yes, you want to shut things down, but you can't just make this change because it's going to completely alter the game, which is basically what happened in both, certainly Leeds and definitely to some extent Tottenham as well. He needs more support, and that's going to come also from players. When you bear in mind, obviously it's disappointing that his plan A isn't there, which revolves around Marcus Tavernier. He needs to come up with a decent plan B, but the fact that he doesn't have his plan A, and we are, the weakest team in the division as things stand, is not good for him. It's not helpful. You want to have Brooks back. You want to have Neto back. You want to have Tavernier back. You want to have a fit Billing. You want to have a fit Kelly. Things are hampering him. So when things are back in his favour, when he has the players available, when he's got when he's got a few more bodies that he can bring in through the door from today, then we can truly see what miracle level do we need from this guy? Or is he someone that is learning well enough on the job that he is actually creating something? Because at the moment, it's difficult to see, particularly from these last 2 games, when he has had his time to train, when he has had his time with the whole squad, bar 2 players, for 6 weeks, and we're getting these performances. That is why there is so much discontent among the fan base, which is totally understandable. And it's going to be up to this coaching staff to turn it around, but the players have to pull their weight as well. And there's definitely an element of certain players we've seen maybe don't feel like they're giving it 100% in the last few games. So that's also something the coaching staff needs to be picking up on and sorting out internally as well.
Let's look at those predicted lineups. Currently, we keep going back to these fantasy football scout predictions just to have a real look at them, really, John. And they're predicting De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez to come back in after winning the World Cup, Shaw back to left back, Casemiro, Eriksen, Antony, Fernandes, Rashford, and Martial. So maybe one change from the Wolves game, although Rashford is looking to start. But your early thoughts on that match lineup prediction from Fantasy Football Scout?
Yeah, I could totally see that. I think that's a sensible prediction with Martinez. If he's back in the fold, Martinez, I would expect him to start. He's certainly been very good for them. Varane Martinez is definitely the preferred centre-back partnership. And after that, I don't see why you would change anything. Wan-Bissaka is not the right back that they want, but I'm not sure whether Dalot is injured at the moment or not, because he's certainly been one of their best players. That's practically their best 11, with maybe 1 or 2 tweaks. So bring it
on. Potentially no Billing. I don't expect anything to change with Neto. Tavernier is definitely not available. We're going to have a look at Football Fantasy Scouts prediction for AFC Bournemouth. Let's switch across and have a look. Oh no, John. It looks like they've gone for a back 5. That might be based on historic lineups against teams in the top 6. They've gone for Travers, Smith, Mepham, Senesi, Kelly, Samura, Dembele, Solanke, Moore. I thought when Dembele come on the pitch, we looked better, but again, we were 2-0 down. It's easier to get on the ball when the team have got that comfortable cushion. Kiefer Moore and Solanke in the team again, John. Let's talk about, I'll come back to that lineup again in a minute. So Kiefer Moore and Solanke, I love Kiefer Moore. And I now love Dom Solanke for a very long time. I just think we don't get the best out of Dom Solanke when Kiefer Moore plays, because I think his best game is now up top. That causes a problem. When Billing's available and he has to shift over to the left, you stifle his game. we don't have a lot of versatility in attack. We've got good players when they play in their natural roles and are in form, can do very well in this league, and I'm sure can keep us up in this division. When you start shifting them into different areas to be a team player, I think we really struggle. I do wonder now, maybe not necessarily this game, not really sure, but whether it has to be going forward, Dom or more. And we just play players in positions that we know are at their best last year in the Championship. Yeah, it looks like a back five, though, that they're going for, but I want to throw that in there.
Yeah, and it's totally understandable as we would play that. I mean, Dembele wouldn't fit in that position. There's no doubt about that. But also, after recent cameos, I think there's been a much greater call for Dembele to have a more significant role in the team. And I think it has been a bit odd that he hasn't shown up more in the first couple months of the season. I think I understand what you're saying, sort of Solanke or Moore, but at the same time, I think Moore is droppable. I think Solanke is never droppable. I think he is just far too good at so many aspects of the game. Yes, he can have some poor matches. There's no doubt about that. There's times where things haven't stuck to his feet and he's had to go chasing and it's not really worked for him. But I mean, God, against Chelsea, he was a man possessed for the first half an hour. He was dribbling through 3 people every time he got the ball and just looked like he was doing everything he could to drag the team to a decent position. And then, the team wasn't able to support him more and it didn't quite work out. Like I mentioned earlier on, he needs to stick with exactly what he wants his plan to be, O'Neill. And in terms of that is either you have more up top and you play 2 more strengths, and you have him as your good old-fashioned target man. You surround him with about 4 players in every goal kick, and you win the second ball, and you go from there, which is a totally legitimate way of playing football. There's nothing wrong with that, particularly when you're going against a team whose entire match squad is more, who's like who Anthony is, their Anthony as opposed to our Anthony is about the same value as our entire squad. So, it's you have to play the underdog sometimes. You can't just desire to play good football in every match and it just works. It's just not quite, it's not as even as you'd like it to be. This isn't American football where everyone has the same budget. And I think that you can certainly play that in this game. When you have Martinez, who has been spoken about as being a weak link because he's 5'8", put more on him. Yes, Martinez is much better than just that, but you can put a 6'4", whatever Kiefer Moore is, 6'6", put him on the 5'8" centre back and just let him win the ball in the air, surround him with players and just play to him. And that's a perfectly legitimate strategy. The other way you do it is not the way that Gary O'Neill is currently trying to do it. I think Anthony was trying to fill in against Crystal Palace, was probably trying to do Tavernier's role from right mid, is be the player that sort of drops to help with the defence and then you springboard with him. But Anthony is just not a substitute for Tavernier. Anthony is a playmaker. He's not a dribbler, which is when Tavernier is the biggest dribbler in the league. So, he needs to rework his plan A to make it work without his most important weapon, which is a very difficult thing to do, particularly in the space of a couple of days when you realise it hasn't worked in the last 2 matches. But he needs to solidify his plan and stick with it, because at the moment it just feels as though he's got a few different ideas and they're not gelling. And this is the 4th time I brought this up in this video, but I really do think this is a big issue with Gary O'Neill at the moment, is that he's not solidified a new plan A without Tavernier. He's trying to shoehorn too much in. He's trying to make things work with passing out from the back, and if it doesn't work, we'll go long, but then no one's there if it's long. So he has to really figure this out and stick with it. Otherwise, let's just hope we defend better against Man United.
And quickly. Now, if you're a Manchester United fan and you're watching this video, do tell us more about Manchester United in the comments, because look, we don't watch you every week. So if you can give us a little bit more information leading into this game, please do. But it is score predictions time. So thank you for checking out this video. Hit the like button, as I said at the start, and do put your score predictions in the comments and a scorer if you want as well. Hopefully, Bournemouth will score in this fixture. Now, AFC Bournemouth's head-to-head record at Old Trafford that we've touched on is 4 4 losses, 1 draw. The best result was a 1-1 draw on the 4th of March 2017. I was there. Andrew Sermon got sent off. It was the game where Zlatan was playing games, but he also missed a penalty because Boruc is one of the best penalty save goalkeepers you've ever seen on a football pitch. So great result for us, but the only point we've ever taken from Old Trafford. Right, John, you know me. I try and be optimistic. I'm really concerned for where we're at as a club at the moment. Concerned with performances. I would love to say we can get a draw. I don't see it. I won't do this often. If we get out of there, being in the game at half time, 3-0 at the end, okay. I want to see a better performance. I really think it could be comfortably a 3-0 win to Manchester United. They beat Forest 3-0. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to throw it out there. I won't do that. I won't do this very often, but I have to be honest and just say what I feel. John, you're going to the game. What are you hoping for or predicting?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping we get out there with a result, but that doesn't mean I think that we will. I'm glad you said 3-0 because that's exactly what I was thinking as well. I'm thinking probably Rashford twice and maybe Fernandes probably. I'd imagine a penalty be in there somewhere. I'm just not confident, particularly when you look at our inability to defend corners. And then not even just defend corners, like we can't take a corner. I mean, Jayden Anthony, I think I saw one corner against Palace early on, and I think Jayden Anthony put in a good ball, but there was no one to really get on the end of it. But that was it. Like, what was it against Chelsea? Was it Chelsea?
We had a few corners against Chelsea in the second half, but yeah, we're really lacking in that area. And a player that
was it. It was Newcastle. We had 2 corners against Newcastle. One hit the side netting without barely even getting in play, and the other one flew about 50 yards over everyone. It's like these are professional footballers. Normally I'm not that kind of person. I'm normally a little bit more measured about that. But like, guys, you've got no pressure on you. It's a dead ball. Just practice it, and we'll get somewhere. But no, hopefully we can put in a half decent corner against United, assuming we get one. But I'm hoping for just some more defensive solidity. I'm hoping for players in their best positions. And I'm hoping for a plan that is solid around one idea that will try and get the best that we can out of this game, which is going to be incredibly difficult. But hey, to be honest, scoring a goal would actually be quite a good result. I think if we lost 3-0 but performed okay, I wouldn't be be all right. If we lost, say, 4-1, at least you have something to hang your hat on in terms of like we've scored a goal for the first time in 4 matches. So yeah, I'm going there with hope rather than any expectation.
Yeah, I can never understand why you can't clear the first man from a corner kick, especially when you've not done it once. The next time you clear it, and when you see footballers not clearing the first man the second time, that's frustrating. I also don't understand why they bring every single player back for a corner and there's a free man in the box. I'll never get that one either. John, we're going to wrap up this match preview, though, for Manchester United. Safe travels. Go into the game. We might get a match reaction out of you, hopefully. And anyone else going to the game, have a safe travel and try and enjoy the game. And hopefully Bournemouth can score. For John, thanks for your thoughts on this match preview.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again, Kirk.
Thank you to you, the fans, for checking out this video. Hit the like button, subscribe, get those score predictions down below. Bournemouth are going to Old Trafford. We've got a draw there before. Can we do it again? We'll see you on the next one. From me and John. Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.